We have a interesting story in the gospel. The meaningful encounter of Jesus with the Samaritan woman. I presume that all of us here know the whole story or the whole encounter of Jesus with this Samaritan woman. We read the shorter version, but in the longer version there's a mention about the background of the Samaritan woman. That the Samaritan woman is having a history of a past, bearing guilt and regrets, fears and wounds. So that every day he would go to the well having this kind of story. And you see an encounter with Jesus happened. Jesus was asking the woman for water. But the woman was telling Jesus, "You are a Jew and I am a Samaritan. We don't share in common." But Jesus interjected, telling her, "If only you knew who is asking water, you would have asked instead the water that I will be giving you, the living water, and you would not need." And for the woman, he said, she got interested. "Can you give me that living water that you're referring to, so that I don't need to come back here?" But we know that what Jesus is telling this woman is not the material water, but the kind of life that Jesus can offer her. We see this woman is living in a kind of tension. We may say tension because she is used to her kind of life, that of the past. But Jesus is offering her a life moving out from her past toward a much better life, which the woman may not be seeing yet. You know, just like if we are here the first reading, in the first reading with the story about Moses and the Israelites when they came out of Egypt, and now they're complaining, "Why did you bring us here, a deserted place? We're thirsty." You know, there is this kind of mentality among people. It would be better for us to be there in Egypt. At least, even if we are slaves, at least we have something to drink, something to eat. But here, we don't see anything. But nevertheless, Jesus or God or Yahweh gave what they needed, even they did not deserve. And St. Paul tells us in the Romans, his letter to the Romans, that salvation is given to us not because we deserve it, but because of God's immense love. And now we go back to the story of the Samaritan woman who is being given by Jesus, or being offered by Jesus, a new life. We hear the responsorial psalm, "If you hear his voice, harden not your hearts." The Samaritan woman hears the voice of Jesus, and the voice of Jesus leads her to a new life. Brothers and sisters, we all have our own past. What kind of past do we have? Past with much guilt, regrets, past with fears and wounds. And at times, we drag this past and bring this past to the present. And this past determines our future. But God is telling us, it's over. I'm offering you salvation, new life. This is the meaning of Lent. We have to go back, not to stay where we came from, but to learn to take the past as an opportunity for us to move forward. At times, we are also having that difficulty because we may consider our past as our comfort zone. We got used to it. Sometimes this is our excuse. I got used to this. There is no way I can change. But God is telling us, no, there is so much that you can do, because there is a much better life that I'm offering to you. It is offered to us. And even if we don't deserve, but because God loves us, He gives us freely. If that is how God deals with us, I think it's also but appropriate and proper to do the same thing with people. We may know people who have wounded past, people who may have been deeply broken, and we may have the tendency to judge them. They are no good. We can be like the Pharisees and the scribes who condemn people because of their past. But let us learn from the Lord Himself, always offering us something better. Not because we deserve, but because He cares about us. He loves us. And let us learn from the responsorial psalm, from the response. God keeps calling us. He calls us from the depth of our being. But if our depth is succumb to so many distractions, perhaps it may be difficult for us to listen. But nevertheless, He keeps knocking at our door, keeps calling us. And as the response tells us, if we hear His voice, and you know that the voice of God is always a voice that cares, a voice that loves, then let us not harden our hearts. Because the moment we listen to that voice will give enlightenment. That voice will give us new inspiration to move forward.